Presidential School Board book by Nancy Walzer, and we're on chapter 3, which is entitled, hang on, Staying Focused on Achievement. And so this was a really interesting chapter, and I would love to just kick it off to anybody who has thoughts. I mean, I'm happy to do some prompts here. One of them was really around this idea of this one district that they spent some time on, she spent some time on about how to use meeting times and streamlining meeting times, which is a conversation that Dr. Severe and I've had over the ages. I'd love to see if anybody has any reflections on using meetings, informal meetings, formal meetings, anything, any takeaways there? If I'm putting you on the spot, let me know.
No, you're fine. So
Homework.
I know we've at least heard from past board members about work sessions and how work sessions could be used and kind of maximizing the agenda and just our time together, that sometimes, you know, we don't need all of our staff here to answer questions. It may just be us talking amongst ourselves to be able to process. And so that's what this made me think of. I mean, there are a lot of thoughts just around how we stay focused on achievement, how we assess, how we remain kind of high level but knowledgeable enough to make decisions. Yeah.
Yep.
I guess for me, the thing that really stood out was staying focused on achievement means knowing the right questions to ask and figuring out what kind of data is appropriate and how much of it you should be receiving as a board member. And to me, that really spoke highly of the way we should be aligning ourselves. Just making sure that we're thinking through the questions that we're asking, not to micromanage, but to get a full picture so that we can figure out if what is happening is actually working, and if it's not, where is that breakdown so that it can be fixed.
Totally agree.
Yeah, and I mean, again and again and again, the theme of boards focusing on policy, not on directing or running the school district, and the sort of relationship that boards should have with a director or superintendent that keeps coming out again and again with the school boards that are successful, and the fact that even when there are changes in leadership and changes in the board, that the goals and objectives they've put forth remain. So they're creating plans that it's not like the new board's going to come in and just scrap it, or even a new director of schools would come in and just scrap it. It's a living, breathing, strategic plan that's being followed through. So,
You know what? I'm sorry to go ahead.
Go ahead.
I like to talk, but I had a lot of thoughts around objective setting, and this really stuck out to me. It said the board hadn't always been as focused. One of my very first meetings was the annual retreat in 1999, and in those days, a successful meeting used to be measured by how many 3M posters were being put up, and so it's just, that got me going down a bunch of different rabbit holes. And I remember our first retreat, I was like, we don't have up a whole lot of posters. What, how are we going to recap this? And we should be able to gallery walk. And so just thinking about how hard it is to keep yourself focused on the objectives of the group or the objectives of the community versus what might become your objective today because you got a call from a constituent, or what may become your objective today because you have a kid. Like, just how do I erase myself, humble myself, and then stay, grin and bear it? Like, this is the objective that we set as a community, as a board, as a system. Not impossible, of course, but it's just tough to, and something that I thought was important to acknowledge.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting, especially with, I expressed at the retreat about the information we get, the data we get, and trying to internalize it in real time. And then the whole information drip, being data rich, but data information poor. And even, particularly if you're a newer board member, like, how do you digest all of that in real time, and then going back to strategic plan and making sure you're staying kind of in your role, in your lane, and then making the meetings work to that effect. Because also there's a little bit of the character of the board about having a meeting structure that fits the character. And then also that is productive, such that, our turnovers every 2 years when half the boards could possibly switch over. How does that affect the rollover achievement, because you expect achievement to continue steady on, but if you're constantly every 2 years reorienting, re-educating, reconsuming data, that you come in with one notion and then you realize you get in there, it's a totally different notion. And then how do you work through all of that? And I think that's a structure of, even if you even look at when do we hire, like when do you elect a chair? You elect a chair in September and then boom, you're straight into it. And part is because of the election cycle, but you don't even give time for the new chair to adjust, to orient, to sit back and think and reflect. How do we consume data? What's our expectation of the superintendent? What's our role between the superintendent and the board? And even the structure of corporate governance. I mean, that's one of the things too, like, even as long as I've observed the board, I'm like, first, like, what the heck is corporate governance? And why does this political body have it and other political bodies don't? And then that kind of gives a history of why it was focused, how it came to be. But it gives the interesting part, because I think even the public doesn't understand that we're working in a traditional corporate nonprofit model in a political setting.
Right.
And so there's tension with that. And then how do you do with the data with it? So it kind of makes you think long term of what does that look like? How do you do that? And how do you give time and space for the board leadership to fix or create a structure that fits the board's character? But then also, how do we also use data that's realistic to really deal with student achievement? And what does that look like? Even how they phrased it and how they presented it was a different thing, particularly with the math or just with their vision and how you do the metrics and how the principals were involved. It just kind of just gives you think of why you do things the way we do. Is it out of tradition? Is it out of inertia? Is it because you don't have time to reflect of, is this the best process for this board at this time?
There were some things that they listed that I thought were really interesting, but also things that we're already doing, right? And there are things that we have embedded in some practices that were started before I came on the board for sure. But I think going back to this idea that we wanted to revisit around aligning the meeting agendas to strategic goals, to being really focused on that. Our presentations, like the one tonight, is aligned to one of the 4 priorities, right? So I think aligning all of that is something that I think we're purposefully trying to do. I think, I'll speak for myself, I don't think I always have a good sense of what the markers are for success. What is the literacy goal we're trying to reach, or whatever goal it is, whether it's chronic absenteeism, whether it's graduation rate, whatever it is. Do we have those front of mind? I think I would love to have that kind of, and I know that we've talked about dashboards, have that more front of mind. Maybe twice a year we kind of dig in on where are we going.
You're talking about the quantitative, like the target, okay?
Yeah, so for example, if we know that, like we just took MAP tests, I'd like to hear how that went, like we did last time. I think those kind of conversations give me a sense of how are our students doing? What do we know? Knowing it's not perfectly accurate, but what do we know? So anyway, I'd love to hear Dr. Battle's thoughts on any parts of this chapter.
I'm happy to chime in, and I heard this already mentioned, but this idea of how we ask questions and what questions we ask about the data was, thank you, it really jumped out to me because as I'm reading along, thinking about how you as board members and as a board will be really plugging in and asking questions, it does give some insight to how we should be preparing data and information so that we can provide you relevant and timely information. And so those are kind of some of the aspects of which I've been able to react to as I've been reading along, because I think that recommendation around thinking through the questions being asked gives a lot of credit to or credence to how we should be preparing information so that it can be timely, relevant, and can be communicated back out to the larger community as needed.
I also liked where they said on page 36, where they were talking about, if there's an opportunity to loop the board in with staff and curriculum training, then they're going to do it, because the board needs to understand enough about it to know what those numbers mean.
Right.
And they need to understand the teaching process behind why this is going to be helpful or not helpful. And I think, so there's got to be a balance between understanding what teaching quality actually is and using the data. And I think understanding what quality teaching looks like and is will help you know how to ask the right questions, and will help you know to, dig into the data, like, is it being implemented properly? Was the training done correctly? Did the teachers know what they're supposed to be doing to make sure that this is actually a valid result? So those are the kinds of things I think we need to make sure we're keeping abreast of ourselves.
I think I would agree, Abigail, but I'm always challenged with that balance.
Yeah.
The line.
In my experience for 12 years, that we have not been able to find that balance. And there is the understanding, and there's the challenging, and there's the then trying to direct and dictate how it should happen. And I think that, and historically, this board has struggled with a healthy respect for the talent that we're paying for, and the talent and experience that Dr. Bowder and her staff bring to this work. And so I agree that, it may help give us a lens, or it just may bring us into a level of sausage making that makes for a 3-hour committee meeting that then ends in the number being what the number is, and we still not giving any. So, I think and I'm okay with that if we start at the right level. We tend to start somewhere in the middle or below. I think if we start with, to Jeannie's point, our target was a 3% growth, making up numbers, right? 5%, easier math. Our target was a 5%, we're seeing a 2.5% growth. Questions, do we need to do more professional development? Is this the right, are we still sure? Are we still sure that this is the right curriculum, right? And so, but when we start bringing in, well, this district is using this, or in my previous experience, I believe that this is the right solution, we really should take a look at this. I really want you to go and do a deep dive on these 3 other products and come back and tell me what the data says these products are able to do. I think that's when it gets a little gray and the work becomes, overbearing for the staff. So I totally agree. I would just ask that we commit to start at the right level. And with that, go into the deep dive, into the digging into the data, because it is our responsibility, right? If we were told we were going to get 5%, we're only getting 2.5%, and our runway is short to make up that 2.5%, something's got to change, right? And so I don't disagree with that at all. I would just ask us to enter into that discussion with the right, again, respect for the process and respect for the talent that comes to the table. So I just think that that's where we tend to get lost.
Well, and one thing that was pointed out on page 51, it talked about when you're seeing yourself in that space where you might not be hitting your targets, we tend to just abandon everything that we've been implementing instead of really digging deep into the implementation, the fidelity of implementation, because you might have something good in strategy and approach, but you might have missed a mark somewhere in implementing and adapting your plan to make sure you can get the biggest bang for your buck. And that also just reminds me of when, as you implement those new strategies, understanding that sometimes it takes time to see the outcomes, and we quickly sometimes pivot without looking at the implementation and giving that strategy time to take hold.
And I feel like that's something that I keep hearing from teachers, and that's how I felt when I was teaching. Give us time to make sure that it's working. Don't change it just because the first test that we give after we do it didn't turn out perfect. And so I think that I love that we're seeing that and we're recognizing that, and I think it's important for all of us.
We help with that, right?
Yes.
Sorry,
yes,
we help with
we
that.
should be.
Yeah.
Yes.
We help with asking for that patience and asking for that time. But I think, Dr. Bowden and I've had this conversation, I think it came up at the retreat, is we just need to be honest about the time it's going to take, right? Wowing us with great targets to get us off your back is not helpful. Being realistic about what it's going to take to reach that target is what's most helpful. And then how can we best help to support the process, as painful as it may be?
No, I thought it was really interesting when they talked about the reading and math example, how they met the score in reading and they did it in math, but they realized the progress was actually happening in math, but the mark was too low for reading. I thought that was a very just when I read it, I was just like, oh, I never thought about that. But it goes back to the data and going back to what you were saying, Dr. Gentry, how you're reading it, how you're mining it, because if the growth's actually happening, but you're not meeting your goal, but you see the growth, who would have thought about how to digest that? And that goes back to how do you digest it in real time to understand where there's actually progress being made. It's just the targets are totally different. But I think that's the hard part, because there's pressure there from the state, federal, and all that. Are you meeting your goals? Are you proficient? Are you meeting your goals and proficient? And it's like, that takes time. We're dealing with 85,000 students who are not starting on the same page. And to turn that ship is going to take time and effort. But yeah, I thought that was kind of an interesting aspect of, you wouldn't actually, that's not your natural train of thought to go, that could happen when you're examining.
Just looking for how high the numbers are.
See,
You know,
that, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
They talked a bit about using the committee structure more appropriately, more efficiently. And it could be, I mean, just because I think about my first 4 years on the board, and I think we used the committees kind of because they were there, didn't really know how to maximize it. It's kind of like when you're a teacher and you have a parapro, but you've never been trained how to use that parapro. Okay, well, I have this tool, I have this resource, but if I'm not implementing it with some sort of goal in mind, and so I think we really need to talk about how we use retreats. What exactly do we want to come from that time together? It's great to hear from the budget, but I'm also just developing this on my own. So, what else, how else could we best use that time to look at data, to set goals amongst ourselves, set norms, remind ourselves of the first 2 chapters in the book, because I think it would behoove us to kind of recap for each other, recap for ourselves, like, what did I read 2 weeks ago in chapter 2? But that's just because I'm forgetful, so.
I think too, we have now I've been here in this district long enough to know that there was a time when we didn't have such a thing as data coaches that came into buildings and helped teachers know how to use data to inform instruction and planning. And I almost wonder if it would benefit us to have some data literacy training to say, this is the language that the district is using. This is what these numbers actually mean, if we're talking about formative and summative and growth over time and all of these things. I almost, because, in the book, it also talks about how school boards have budgets for PD, right? Which we have foregone for the most part here. This is our PD right here, right? Is there a world in
How
which
much are we paying you?
This is out of the goodness of my heart, as I say, jewels in my crown. And so I wonder if it wouldn't help us in a retreat to have somebody from we have amazing data, staff on the data team, to come in and just give a broad overview of how the cabinet's using data, how the district is thinking about data. I think that would be helpful to me.
I love having a shared vocabulary. I think that is so important. And it not only helps us, but it helps the teachers too, because then we're on the same page when we're talking about things. And then they don't see a division between what we're doing and what they're doing. So,
Yeah, I think it'd be neat, especially for those of who don't have an educational background. Like, I can look at polling numbers for a political poll and read them and understand them, but if I give them to you guys, you'll understand the numbers, but you're not gonna be able to digest it. I think it's the same thing, no matter what profession you're in. Reading numbers mean one thing in one profession, means something in another. And so if we just had that tutorial, this is what those things mean, I think it helps a lot just to level set, just for the board as a whole, so we're going in with the same expectations. I love that idea.
Well, and I think that conversation could also help clarify, this was hit on in chapter 3 as well, leading and lagging indicators and data points. And so when you have clarity around that, because it can be confusing, particularly when you're talking about an assessment system where students test in their summative sense in the spring, and those results generally don't show up until the fall. And so how you use some of the leading data to really make those, real-time decisions around what's best for students.
and I think it's important to note that leading data is way more important. Because that's what makes that change. That's what makes the changes in the teaching. So, so I think we focus a lot on that one big test, and it's not giving us what we need. It's not telling us the story
And
that
it's
we
after
need
the
to
fact,
know.
right?
Exactly.
And it's all after the fact.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
and
It's a lot tougher to draw comparisons with the leading data. So we have to sort of trust the plan that we have put in place if we want to be looking at that more real-time data. I was also thinking a lot about our understanding of the data as a board when we had multiple charter school renewal applications in front of us, and we are faced with reading that and sifting through it and making decisions and trying to figure out what we're going to base that on. And I felt a little overwhelmed by it, like trying to figure out where I wanted to go with that. So I like the idea of, and I have my grant writer data brain, and we just make up our objectives and hope that the funder believes us.
Right, right. And then figure out how you're going to track all
secret
of
for
that.
you there.
Yeah.
But, and so I'm trying to apply that brain, like Frida's trying to apply her, politics brain. And so it'd be great to have a shared vocabulary around what we're using, how we're using it. And that way you don't end up just kind of turning to the one data point that
Yep,
speaks to you.
right, right. That doesn't speak to the whole district or the whole child, right?
Well, and if we get the assessments right and start to have the right conversations around our data points, we don't have to wait on that summative assessment because we will know and can anticipate where our students are all along the way. And that's just something, as a previous administrator, I didn't have to wait for 10 ready scores to come back because we were well informed about where our students were and what types of progress they were making.
Okay, closing thoughts. I'll give us a minute to take a breath for the board meeting. Appreciate y'all.
Well, I'll say I appreciated kind of having some guidance around how to become, or how to be an engaged chair. Just making sure that I'm bringing us all along for the ride, that we all feel like we have a shared responsibility and a shared weight, even if I'm the spokesman, at this point. So I appreciate being able to really think about why we do what we do, why we use the tools that we use, and then how we can maximize their efficiency.
Okay.
Yeah,
so that's
and
a
I think
takeaway.
before
Go
you
ahead.
close, just the last thing on the last page of the 52 where it says, data alone will not fix the problems.
Right, that's right.
So that I think is an important thing. Just because we know the numbers doesn't mean we're going to make them better. We got to understand why they're there and figure out what we can do to move it from that 2.5% to 5%. So.
Awesome. Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. We'll have about a 3-minute break and we'll start promptly at 5 o'clock.